Hey guys, before we get started, just a quick announcement. I actually did not write a pattern for this tutorial. It took me a really long time to even get around editing this tutorial, and I just wanted to get it posted. But if you would like to increase or decrease the size of this cardigan, which is about a medium large, you can just add or subtract 3 chains or as many chains as you would like from the foundation rows of the body and the sleeves. I also didn't add the sweater as opposed to the cardigan to this tutorial. As I say though throughout the tutorial, you can just make 2 backs and attach them. In the meantime, enjoy this picture of my cat, and I hope you enjoy the tutorial. Thanks. Oh, and comment down below if you have any issues. Okay, bye. So for this tutorial today, I'm actually going to give you a 2-for-1 in this video, which I'm really excited about. I'm going to be using the Loops and Thread Charisma yarn in a 9mm burlesque crochet hook to complete a cardigan version and a sweater pullover version of the cutout pattern that I am providing today. I'm very excited about this to be able to do both. In the purple, I'll be making the cardigan, and the blue will be the pullover. The reason why I'm doing 2 is because they're both really similar. For the cardigan, we're going to start on the back, and for the sweater, you just make 2 of the backs instead of making the front panels. But I'll explain that when we get there. So we're gonna go ahead and get started on the cardigan. So go ahead and grab your materials and I'll meet you back here. So I'm going to be making a size medium for this tutorial. I am going to start with a slip knot. I'll make that tail a little longer. I'm going to start with a slip knot, and then I'm going to chain 43 chains for the foundation. So I have 43 chains made. I'm going to go ahead and block off this last chain. I'm going to chain 2 more, and now these first 2 plus the one I blocked off is your first double crochet. So you're not going to go into those stitches, you're going to yarn over and insert into the 4th chain from the hook and complete a double crochet. I have some tutorials on how to complete double crochets if you need help on that, but this is more of a pattern tutorial, not the stitch tutorial, so go ahead and check those out if you need any additional help. So for the first row, I'm just going to go ahead and place 1 double crochet in every stitch. So I'm working my last double crochet. I've completed row 1. Now I'm going to work the second row. And for the back of the cardigan, if you're making the sweater, you're just going to work 2 of these back panels that we're working on. We're going to be alternating double crochet rows and a cutout row for the first, I believe, 6 rows. So to begin the cutout row, I chained 4. And so now I'm going to flip my work over, The chain 4 works as the first double crochet and then the first chain. I'm going to yarn over, skip the immediate stitch, the next stitch, and go into the third stitch in that row to work a double crochet. And as you can see, that created a box in the row. So I'm going to chain 1, yarn over, skip a space, and go into the next stitch. So this row is worked with a double crochet, a chain stitch, skipping 1, and then working into the next chain. So I'm going to finish this row, and that is what you will repeat rows 1 and 2 more times for a total of 6 rows, and then we will continue working the cardigan. Chain and double crochet. If you don't end up working the last stitch as a double crochet, you've done something wrong. So this is the chain 3 of the first round. We're going to yarn over and insert into the third chain of that chain 3 and work a double crochet. So we've just completed the second row. I'm going to show you how to work the third row because it's a little different than just the foundation chain. So I'm going to chain 3, and then I'm going to yarn over and insert into the hole. I'm not working into a stitch, I'm working into the gap for the second stitch, and then I'm going to yarn over and go into the double crochet of the previous row. So we're just going to alternate working 1 double crochet in the gap, 1 in the double crochet, 1 in the gap, 1 in the double crochet. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. Finish this row and then work rows 1 and 2 a total of 3 times until I have 6 rows worked, and then I will meet you back here. Thanks. I did want to show you how I'm going to complete this round. I have 1 double crochet left. I'm going to yarn over, and on the chain 4 of the previous row, I'm going to go into the third chain. So that is how you'll complete row 3. So I will meet you back here whenever you have completed 6 rounds. So I've completed 6 rows. This is the bottom detail of the cardigan and the sweater if you choose to make the pullover sweater. At this point, we are now just going to work straight rows of double crochet until the back piece, or if you're making the sweater, the front and the back piece, measure 25 inches. So I am just going to chain 3 and work the 7th row like I would any of these repeat rows, but whenever I get to the end, instead of making another cutout row, I'm just going to keep working double crochets. So I will meet you back here when your piece measures about 25 inches. Feel free to continue the cutout pattern all the way to the top. It would be a good way to save yarn if maybe you can't find the same amount in every dye lot, or same amount of yarn that you need in a dye lot. It's completely up to you. I am going to make it not cut out though, but would definitely love to see any variations that anyone tries to do. So I will meet you back here when your work reaches 25 inches. So to begin the front panel, I'm going to chain 3. You're just going to continue working from whatever working yarn you are working on the back panel with. I am going to yarn over and insert into the second stitch and I am going to work 19 stitches for my front panel. So the way the cardigan is set up is the front panels are worked directly onto the back, and I'll work 19, skip 5, or excuse me, yeah, skip 5 and then work the additional 19 after I've finished the first front panel. So I'm gonna go ahead and work 19 and then meet you back here. So I have 19, and instead of working the rest, I'm going to chain 3, turn my work, and keep working this front panel. So I'm going to complete 21 total double crochet rows without the pattern, and then I will complete the pattern at the bottom of the front panel. So whenever it folds, it aligns to the bottom of the back panel. So I'm gonna go ahead and work to the end of my 21 rows on the front panel, and I'll meet you back here to remind you how to do the cutout portion of the cardigan. So I've gotten to the bottom of my first panel. I have 2 rows left of the cutout pattern. I am gonna go ahead and chain 4. This is exactly how we did it for the bottom of the back panel. We're going to go into the 3rd stitch of the previous round, chain 1, skip a chain, or excuse me, a stitch, and work a double crochet. I'm just working quickly through this because we've already gone over it. So after these last 2 rounds, we are just going to fasten off and then begin the other panel. And now I'm going to work the last double crochet into the 3rd chain of the chain 4 of the previous row. I'm going to work 1 chain stitch, cut a tail, and then pull it through to create a knot. So now we've completed our first panel, and we're going to go ahead and begin the second panel. So starting at the corner, and it doesn't matter if you pick it up here, I like to start at the corner because I can keep my stitches straight better, just counting wise. So I'm going to put a slip knot onto my crochet hook. I'm going to insert into the 3rd chain. If you're starting here, you'll just work it into the top of a double crochet. And I'm going to chain 3. I'm going to yarn over and work a double crochet into the next 18 stitches to have a total of 19 stitches picked up. And from this point forward, the second front panel is worked identically. Oh my gosh, it's worked exactly the same as the other panel. So I am going to go ahead and finish this off camera, and then I will show you how to make the sleeves and then how to sew everything together. So I will meet you back here after you've finished your second front panel, and we'll get the sleeves started. I've completed my second front panel, so now I'm going to go ahead and work the sleeve. The sleeve is made essentially like a smaller back panel. So instead of chaining 43 chains, we're going to chain 23 chains. So I have 23 chains. I'm going to chain 2 more, which will serve as the first double crochet. I'm going to yarn over, and into the 4th chain from my hook, I'm going to work a double crochet. So just like the back panel of the cardigan or of the pullover sweater, you're just going to work double crochets across the foundation chain. And then you will work the cutout pattern for the 6 rows. So I will show that to you briefly. So I'm working my last double crochet, and just like the back panel, I'm going to chain 4 and then turn my work and double crochet into the 3rd stitch of the previous round to create the first box. So now I'm going to chain 1 and skip a chain and work a double crochet. So since we already worked the back panel, and it will essentially follow the exact same pattern, it'll just be smaller. So you'll work a total of 6 rows of the repeat 1 and 2, and then you'll work until your sleeve is a total of 16 inches or 13 rows. So I'm going to complete 2 sleeves, and then I will show you how to sew everything together and then put the finishing touches on the cardigan and the pullover sweater. So I've finished my 2 sleeves. I'm gonna go ahead and add a border around the inside of the cardigan. This is optional. If you like how it looks, that's completely fine. I definitely would recommend trying it on to see how you like it. But for this particular pattern, I'm just gonna give the option of how to add just a simple pattern. So I am going to place a slip knot on my hook. I am going to insert my hook into the sideways double crochet and chain 3. I am then going to place 1 more double crochet into that sideways double crochet. And essentially now you're just going to work 2 double crochets along every sideways double crochet until you reach the neckline. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So now I'm going to work the back of the neck, and I actually realized that I must have increased on accident somewhere because I actually have 6 stitches along my neckline when you should only have 5. So you only have to fill in 5, so just ignore the mistake I made. And that just goes to show that you can never be too careful whenever you're filling in, or when you're double crocheting into the cutout squares, because I think that's where I must have made the mistake. So I'm just going to place 1 double crochet into the supposedly 5 back stitches. You want to make sure you don't place one where the other panel starts. You're just going to flip your work, or turn your work, and work 2 double crochets along the sideways double crochets along the other side. So the trim is done in one continuous work. So I'm working my last double crochet. I'm going to chain 1 and then cut a tail and just pull it through. So now we are completely done crocheting. We have the body and then the neckline done, and now we're going to sew the sleeves on and the sides of the cardigan. So I will meet you back here whenever you have everything ready to go. So I went ahead and laid out my body of my cardigan completely flat. You can see here that I'm working off the side of one panel, and then this is the back. I've lined up from where the neckline is down this line to the middle of the sleeve. So now, and another way to check if you're correct is I have about 6 rows to the end of here and 6 rows to the end of here. So I'm gonna go ahead and thread my needle, and we're just going to be using basic whip stitch. So I cut my tail long enough on my sleeve that I can just continue off my sleeve to do this. So we are just going under the horizontal bar into the stitches of the top of the sleeve. And I am just going to work my way along. You have to do one whip stitch per stitch at the top of the sleeve. And I am putting about 2 whip stitches in every sideways bar. It might get a little off as it's not a perfect one-to-one, but you'll see this is a very simple technique. Whip stitch is great for beginners. Very super easy to learn. If you need any further assistance, there are some great YouTube tutorials on how to do whip stitch. And obviously feel free to use either the mattress stitch or any other preferred sewing method. But as this is a beginner pattern, I just want to keep it as simple as possible. So I'm just going to work till the end. Make sure not to skip any stitches at the top of your sleeve, otherwise you'll get holes that you won't want to be visible. I'm cutting it a little close with my yarn here, but I should have enough. And so the last whip stitch will be in either the last double crochet or the third chain of the chain 3. And so now I'm gonna go back into the last one, create a loop, and then knot it by going back into here and pulling it tight. So now you can just tuck in your ends by pulling it through and then just snipping the tail. And you have just sewed your sleeve onto the body of your cardigan. So now you can complete that on the other side, but I'm going to show you how to sew up from the sleeve all the way down to the end of the cardigan. So I'm gonna have a hard time getting this to all fit in the shot, but essentially I will cut a super long sewing string because we're going down the sleeve and then down the body. And of course, if you want to break that up, that's more than okay. But how I like to start is I'll tie my sewing yarn to whatever tail I have on the sleeve. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I learned a better way to do this. So you're going to thread your yarn. You're going to go into the third chain in the bottom knot of whatever side you're working on, and then leave a tail. And then you're going to go back into those same areas and then pull through, and this will secure it and make a knot. You can also tie the two tail ends together. That really helps secure it. I just always like to be extra secure when sewing, so I make multiple knots. But we're gonna basically sew this the same way as we did the sleeve, but instead of going into a stitch in a sidebar, we're going into 2 sidebars. So we're gonna go ahead and just whip stitch the 2 bars together. And it can depend what you want to do. I like putting 2 whip stitches into a horizontal double crochet because it'll leave less gaps, but it's certainly up to you. It would be fine if you did 1, but I also like to keep it kind of loose so they don't cinch together. So whenever it opens back up, whenever you are wearing it, it's not pinched together. You can open it and it could be a circle. So because this is kind of sloppy looking, I'm just gonna go ahead and finish the sleeve to the armpit off camera, and then I'll come back and show you how to transition from the armpit to the body. So I'm at the armpit. I am probably gonna run out of yarn also, so I'll show you how I fix that, but I have just completed the last double crochet of the sleeve. I am going to go into the stitch, the top of the stitches of the row where the sleeves connect, and just put 1 whip stitch in there just for some extra security on the armpit. And that's basically all I do at the armpit, and then I just continue working down the body. And so as you can see, this is a very, very beginner friendly type of project because there's not a ton of techniques that are super sophisticated. It's really simple ways to make a garment that is cute, wearable, and at the end of the day, you're not discouraged from finishing it. Because I've had some projects where I discourage myself from making them because they're either too complex or I'm just not enjoying it. So yeah, I'm gonna off camera just finish, or I'll actually, never mind, okay. And again, don't keep it too tight so when you open it, it's not cinching, it just, it isn't cinching. So I'm about to run out of yarn. I'm going to cut just another piece about a little more than double of what I have left and simply just tie it to, here, I'm going to take my needle off first. I'm going to tie it to the other working string. There might be a better way to do that, but at a certain point whenever you're sewing and you don't want to undo everything, I just tie it to the same piece. And then just keep going. If you aren't confident in sewing like at all, you can also just honestly single crochet the two sides together. So I don't use that technique in this tutorial. Someone who has really great tutorials involving that technique is Dana B. I will link her channel in the description box. So that's another option you have too. Oh, I got talking and I completely forgot. So instead of going all the way to the bottom, I am going to stop my sewing before the patterned rows. So we're only going to sew together this and leave those open. And so to finish, we're going to go into the same one again, work through and tie a knot. And then I'm just going to work my working yarn back into some of these stitches and pull through. So I just showed you everything you need to know to complete the rest of your project. Just go ahead and sew the other side, other sleeve on and the other side shut. And when you're done with that, all you have to do is tuck in your ends and you're completely done. So good luck working on the rest of this project, and I can't wait to see how everyone's work turns out.